Morning, Mark. Which one do you want to do first?
Resident Hunters of Alaska.
Okay, you're on.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Special welcome to new board member Kip Fanning. Kip, I used to hang out with your dad and others at Dixon's Gun Shop in the early 80s. We talked about the Libertarian Party and taking over the legislature back then. It was good days. For the record, my name is Mark Richards. I'm the Executive Director of Resident Hunters of Alaska. Our acronym is RHAK, and we pronounce it RAC. I'm here to testify for RAC today. Our extensive public comments are PC 454, like the big block engine. As you might have guessed, I'm here to talk about sheep issues. RAC is a brand new organization born in large part out of the frustration so many resident hunters feel over sheep issues and with this board. In that sense, I suppose I'm the divorce attorney for a group of resident hunters who don't like you anymore. I'm hoping to get a settlement agreement so we can all move on and get this past this time in our lives. Or as Coke Wallace might put it, I don't ever want to see another sheep proposal again. But getting serious, here's what RAC believes. Let's see if we can agree on at least the first point. First, we need to kill less sheep. Why do we believe that? Because the overall trends over the last 25 years have been going in the wrong direction. Sheep populations have declined. Total harvests and success rates for both unguided resident and non-resident guided hunters have gone down. Fewer big sheep are being taken, which corresponds to age of harvested rams going down in some areas. This board tends to want to concentrate on the crowding concerns, but the crowding is a result of fewer sheep out there. Leif Wilson from 40 Mile Lake Air explained how that works at one of the sheep working group meetings. In the TMA, which is a draw-only area, the number of available permits was halved, so there are fewer hunters, but there is more crowding. As Leif explained, the reason for this is the decline in sheep population is not as spread out as it used to be, so fewer hunters are forced to congregate in smaller areas where the sheep are. Getting to the point we agree that we need to kill less sheep is the sticking point of this entire issue. Certainly it wouldn't hurt to kill less sheep. Put another way, if we want to have a sheep recovery plan, as Mr. Huntington mentioned, killing fewer rams would certainly help. It's extremely hard to move forward on this when the department continues to say that they have no conservation concerns. The cycle before the changes in 13D and 14A, the department had no conservation concerns. The cycle before TMA permits were halved, the department had no conservation concerns. The cycle before the emergency closure to all sheep hunting areas of the Northwest Alaska, the department had no conservation concerns. To RAC, it's like the writing on the wall should be obvious to all. We have sheep conservation concerns, a cycle before the department is willing to say so. RAC's position is that we limit the non-resident component that is by far the most successful and, in our view, unfairly and disproportionately harvesting our sheep resource. The 40% statewide non-resident sheep harvest rate is bad enough, but the 60 to 80% non-resident harvest rates in some areas, we sincerely don't understand how this board can allow that to continue. RAC is pro-resident. We believe that residents should have a clear priority to our state's game resources. One of the other reasons RAC was formed is because we believe in families and sharing the tradition of sheep hunting with our kids and grandkids. We can't do that if we lose opportunity. That isn't selfish. That isn't anti-guide or anti-non-resident. It's just pro-resident, pro-family, and pro-tradition. Some may believe our position to limit all non-resident sheep hunters statewide to draw-only hunts with a maximum of 10% of the total harvest is extreme. We believe that what the Board of Game has allowed to happen for so long is extreme. To all my guide friends listening, I love you. I really do. But you know as well as I do that what is happening is wrong. What we really disagree on is the proper solution and what the final numbers will look like. RAC is tossing out our number. Certainly the board is free to come up with their own. The bottom line is this, though. If this board does not act at this meeting to reduce non-resident sheep hunting opportunity in some form as a starting point to help our sheep resource and reduce some of the crowding and conflicts and confer a clear preference for resident sheep hunting opportunity, it would be a dereliction of your responsibility to the sheep resource and to the resident Alaskan sheep hunter. Residents do not need to share the burden of any restrictions. They have already shared the burden of unlimited non-resident sheep hunting opportunity for too long. In closing, it isn't that the people I represent want the house and all the valuables in our divorce proceedings. We don't even want all the sheep mounts. We'll let you keep one. We want the other 9. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the service on this board. And I want to offer a special thank you to Member Barasco. Pete, I got to hand it to you for taking this on at this ripe young age you're at right now, and best wishes to you, and spend more time with the grandkids. Thank you to Christy and board support as always, and Director Dale, I'll thank you if you just come out with the department saying we have conservation concerns. Thank you.
Mark, you always do a good job, and you're right on time. Thank you. Board members, questions? I think you're very clear. You always are. Okay, and you also signed up for personal testimony?
I did. Again, my name is Mark Richards. I'm representing myself. In 1980, my wife Lori and I arrived in Alaska via canoe from Whitehorse, Yukon Territory. For the past 30 plus years, we've lived in the remote bush on the Kandik River. We raised 3 wonderful children out there, living a subsistence hunting, trapping, and fishing lifestyle. I currently reside in Fairbanks. We moved here last fall. Oh, and on that note, before Warren Fairbanks AC, I'm going to seek a seat on your committee at the next available opportunity. I don't have cooties, but I look forward to working with you. On these sheep issues, I want to talk about how the rhetoric often doesn't match the facts. One example is one I hear a lot, that 80% of the sheep hunters are residents. This implies that residents are causing the vast majority of the crowding and conflicts in the field. Well, first off, the statewide average always hides the facts of what is going on in specific units. Non-resident sheep hunters make up 30 to 50% of the sheep hunters in some areas. But what I'd really like to point out is what things look like in the field. Resident sheep hunters primarily hunt in pairs. They typically both have sheep tags and are both classified as sheep hunters in the statistics. When a resident sheep hunter sees a non-resident sheep hunter, she doesn't just see one person, she sees at least one more, the guide, and often another, the packer. And I just gotta say, it's great that we've got women sheep hunters out there. You girls rock. Anyway, she may also see guide cams with more staff, aircraft, etc. The thing is, only the non-resident sheep hunter is counted in the stats. This is how we get to this 20% non-resident statewide participation average. I think it's completely fair to say that if we want to be honest about things, non-resident sheep hunters really make up 40% of what we see in the field. At minimum, crowding is about the total numbers out there. To proponents of the guide concession program, I feel your pain, I really do, but it's time to go through the last stage of grief and accept that it isn't going to happen, at least in the foreseeable future. I'd hope we could agree on that, and if we do, I'd ask, do you really believe doing nothing right now is the best course of action? And if I may, with all due respect for some members of this board, to yet again fall back on the GCP as a solution to these sheep issues, as a way of actually promoting the status quo yet again, and then to use a federal agency to try to bolster support for a guide concession program. Gosh, golly winkers, I'm just speechless on that. I've never been kicked out of this chair, and I don't intend to start now. Look, if we can't admit that the GCP is DOA for the foreseeable future, we aren't being honest. If this board favors status quo yet again, then so be it. But please don't frame it with the misleading rhetoric about the GCP. How long is this board willing to do nothing about these sheep issues and the known problems? And why does this board, this Alaska Board of Game comprised of resident hunters, not support a clear resident preference to our sheep resource? This notion I've heard from board members that residents do have a priority is simply not true in the face of the facts. Winding down instead of looking back, and you all know how I love to do that, I have some new transcriptions from the chairman's thoughts in my briefcase, but I won't go into those now. I thought I'd focus on moving forward. There is only one way right now to start putting more sheep on the mountain, and that's to leave them there instead of taking them away. When you think about how best to do that, I hope you will recognize the intent of our state constitution and our statutes and not confuse maximum benefit with maximum dollars accrued by the state, or preferences among beneficial uses with somehow meaning that includes non-residents. There's nothing wrong with being pro-resident. That's how we become a state. I feel it's this board's responsibility to support the resident hunter and to protect the resident sheep hunter's opportunity to hunt sheep in the future. Thank you. That's all I have, and I have some extra rack buttons if any board members want one.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Any additional comments, questions? Nate?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark. You know, you made a strong point that you feel the hunters are leading or at least contributing to the decline in the sheep populations. You know, you're also on the sheep working group, and you've sat through the department presentations, all of them. What is it what data or what factors are helping you direct your thoughts towards the fact that hunters are causing the decline? I know this is a big question, and it's one that we looked at. We tried to look at in more detail at the working group. It's one that I was really trying to hope to establish whether it was true or not true at the working group. And each presentation, as you actually complained about, comes out as there's nothing directly linking it, but you feel strongly about it. So I was hoping you could help me understand your views better.
Member Turner, through the chairman. I don't want you to put words in my mouth. I did not say that hunters had caused the sheep declines that we're experiencing right now. Those sheep declines, as we all know, have been caused by many factors, weather, predation, etc. But obviously, with low populations, hunting plays a role in those populations not recovering. I mean, we wouldn't have the permits in TMA. We wouldn't have closed Unit 26. We wouldn't have done what we did in 13D, 14A if hunters also didn't play some kind of a role when you guys believe there aren't enough sheep to go around for everybody. So I guess the bottom line, Nate, is that right now, clearly it would seem obvious that hunting at the levels that we're doing it right now is not going to help. It's only going to hurt. It's not going to help any recovery. And as I stated, the only way, you know, as Orville Huntington said, you know, to start a recovery plan is to start killing less sheep.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, Mark, very
Thanks.
good. Thank you.